Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the design portion of the lecture. So we're going to focus on motion flow and aesthetic. So for this portion, we're basically just going to talk about CSS animations, and then we're going to show a few examples of when you want to use CSS animations and maybe when you want to avoid them. So this is our first example. It's a little PayPal animation, and right off the bat, it looks really clean. It's a really smooth animation, and it's really creative. If you notice that it like unfolds the same way that a real receipt would unfold in real life. But if you kind of focus on the user interaction aspect of this, you realize that it's not ideal because you notice that the way the things in the cart unfold, it's very slow, it's one by one, and right when the last one unfolds, it immediately disappears. So if you're actually trying to read everything on this list, it's not the most efficient. So this is an example of when you might want to minimize how many CSS animations you actually use. So in this slide, we have an example of what a better use of CSS animations is. So you can notice that this is definitely a more simple design than the previous one. All of the animations just focus in that little box in the middle. So it's like sending the code and then there's a loading and then it's sent. And although it's more simple, it does everything that it needs to do. So it lets the user know every step that it's going through. And then it's also not super overwhelming and it doesn't distract from the actual content that it's showing you. So from those two slides, we kind of just wanted to demonstrate that animations shouldn't be the main attraction in your page. And actually, if you have too many animations, it kind of takes away from the actual content of the page. And on the right here, it's a little example. Just note that loading screens are a really good place to put animations because it kind of gives people something to look at when they're waiting. And there's also many other ways that you can use these animations, but we would recommend to use them sparingly and just like in the right places so it doesn't become too overwhelming. So this is another example of when you might want to use an animation. So you can see like they're switching between the two pages and it's really dramatic changes. So the pictures aren't in the same place and neither is the text. So the change between them it kind of hurts your eyes if you switch too much. And a way we can fix this is by adding the CSS animations. So if you notice now, there is like a little, the transition is definitely more smooth because you see that the pictures in the first page transition out and the other ones slide in, and then so do the words. So this is definitely easier on the eye. So one tool that you can look into to go with the animations, to kind of design the animations is InVision. So this is a tool that you'll use earlier on in your design process, perhaps like after your Figma mockups, you want to kind of think about if you want to add any animations and where you would add them and what they would do. So InVision kind of just helps you visualize the animations without actually having to make the website. So it's a visualization tool. And then another tool you could use is Adobe After Effects. This one is like, you would use this ideally after InVision because this is where you actually create the animation. And this is perhaps a little bit more difficult to use, but when you do get the gist of it, it's definitely, you'll be able to create some really cool stuff. And just to note, Adobe is not free, but if you are a Berkeley student, you do get a free account, so you can get free Adobe. And okay, moving on to aesthetic. So let's see. In the past few weeks, we've gone over a few different components of design. So today we're going to do a little quick crash course and kind of introduce branding. So what are some things that we already know? Okay, so we've gone over color scheme, and some of the most important things we talked about in the color scheme lecture was using a very cohesive, complementary color palette. So it makes your page look really put together. And another thing we mentioned was to try to get the logo and the image in your webpage complement the color scheme as well, so it looks more cohesive. And then in the typography lecture, we talked about how to differentiate different types of type. And then there was sans serif fonts and serif fonts. And then we also touched upon like the hierarchy of fonts, and then how we want to, there's a general rule of thumb that you want to try to use 2 to 3 fonts max for each website. And then for images and graphics, I think we did that last week, but we just talked about how there's different image types and when you want to use them, because sometimes they get really pixelated after you save them a bunch of times. And then for graphics, we just want to focus on adding graphics that contribute to the style and the character of the website without being too distracting. And then for the layout, we just kind of talked about using grid layouts to format your website in a way that is not really clustered, and it's really easy for the user to go through. So today we're going to add motion to try to add character into the website. So we also want to introduce a concept called brand personality theory, and essentially this is personifying your brand in a way that when you think about this brand, you have certain characteristics that are associated with it. So for instance, if you think Apple, their logo is really clean. Their color palette is really simple. It's just like white and gray. And then when they market their products, it's pretty much, the idea is that they're super high tech. They're really sleek, they're modern and expensive. And that's kind of their identity that they have associated with the brand. So every time you think about that, you think, every time you think about Apple, you think about those traits. And that kind of gives you the impression of the company as a whole. So that's kind of complicated, but we have a few examples to kind of explain that further. So, okay, this is our first example. Hopefully you guys can see this, but this is Stripe. So it's a financial company where like it gives you different payment options. And right off the bat, you can see that these 2 pictures right here kind of show you that it's a financial website, because there's like this mobile like view, and this is the website view. And then the other thing you might notice is like this huge like color splatter in the back, and it's moving too. So that draws a lot of attention. So the first thing you see when you look at this is you probably read this text because it overlaps with the color. And then when you're scrolling down, you're able to see a little bit of animation here. It's really subtle, but it definitely draws your attention, but it's not too distracting. So this keeps with the whole theme of the financial and payment. And if you scroll down more, this is another like how developers can use this. And then you can kind of see in the icons here that there's a little bit of movement, but it's not like super distracting. And it kind of ties in with the color palette of this website, which is blue and purple. And then it's pretty like consistent throughout the entire rest of it. But yeah, so if you look at the typography, it's like mostly sans serif fonts. So it's really modern. And usually you'll see the sans serif fonts in very image heavy or graphic heavy websites. So Stripe is a really good example of using graphics and pictures to add character to your website. And then let's see, the next example is Robinhood. So this one is a investment site that is targeted towards a younger audience. So right when you open the website, there's like this really cool animation here. And then it like draws all your attention here. And again, this is like really on brand with what they're trying to market to you, like the investment. And then when you scroll down, this is like the ad or what they're trying to like the biggest words they want to show you. And what's special about this website is there's like a little carousel horizontal scroll thing. And this kind of just helps the web page not be too long vertically, so you don't have to keep scrolling. So that is really good. And then again, you notice that there's a bunch of graphics, but the graphics don't take away from the text or the content that they're trying to show you. Instead, it complements it. So like this is like talking about crypto, and this is like a picture of crypto. So that's really consistent with the rest of the website as well. And then again, like Stripe before, it's a very modern website, and like the website has a very modern goal. So you see a lot of sans serif font. And again, like you can kind of see a very cohesive green theme going on here. And then in our next example, we have Zoom. And okay, right off the bat, you can kind of see there is quite a few animations going on at the same time. So this word is changing and that's making these graphics here change. So you can also notice there's like a very consistent blue theme. It's like the same blue, it's like this blue. And when you scroll down, they utilize their animations really well because if you look here in this area, the way that the animations stacked on top of one another draws your attention here. So then you want to click on these. And then once you click on these, they show little animations here as well, which doesn't take away from the content. And it's not super distracting, but it kind of just adds character. And then while you're scrolling down, there's not much else. There's just like hover effects. And then, yeah, very cohesive, like blues everywhere. And then again, it's just sans serif fonts. So in the next one, we have Discord, for example. And this one is comparable to the Robinhood website because it's targeted towards like a younger demographic. So you can see they're both very colorful websites. And this one, Discord focuses on more playful graphics here. And it's really cohesive throughout the entire theme as well. So they're showing you like what you'll see inside their website in this graphic, but they also integrate like these little characters here. So again, it complements the entire website and it complements the text it's like trying to depict. So yeah, while this is a really simple website, it does its job. It's very cohesive and it's more playful. So like you notice here, this font is definitely like not, it stands out from the rest of the fonts and it's more playful than like the Zoom font, for instance. So the next two examples are like fashion catalogs. So this one's Vogue. And you can kind of see it's like a very simple website. It's very picture oriented. The text that's on here is just like labels or like dividers who like talking about the pictures. So the background is just white and then the text is black. So it's super simple. There's not really a color scheme going on here that draws your attention. And when we're looking at the typography, again, it's a lot of sans serif fonts, and the only serif font that you see here is the Vogue, which is really consistent with like all of their like products. So that is their brand. And then you see a very similar pattern with the Elle website. So here it's really similar in that like it's just white in the background and it's picture oriented, but this has more of a blog feel than Vogue. And you see a little bit more sans serif fonts, so it's a little bit more casual. And yeah, I think that's our last example. So does anyone have any questions about this portion or the previous portion? Oh. If we don't have any questions, then I think we can stop recording.